We are well within the season of the holy days of our people. We have just finished Yom Kippur, and yet every week we have a sacred day. Much as Yom Kippur is a sacred day, we have a sacred day every week. And so we come once again to Shabbat. It's a pleasure to see all of you. And it's a pleasure that those of you who are joining us via live stream or Facebook or YouTube are here with us. And it's my pleasure to invite our cantor, Elena Zark, to bring us in on the wings of song to a sense of prayer.
And we're going to start with the Yedit Nefesh on page 10. Heart's delight, source of mercy, draw your servant unto your arms. I leap like a deer to stand in awe before you. Yedit Nefesh.
Welcome Shabbat with the lighting of Shabbat candles, and it's my pleasure to call forward Frank and Rini Glassman, who have been gracious enough to accept the honor of lighting Shabbat candles. We're going to begin on page 3 with a reading, and then we'll continue on page 2.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvah, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you to both Rini and Frank.
Thank you for the honor.
Oh, please, for helping us to welcome Shabbat. We continue to welcome Shabbat, and I want to invite those who are standing. If you'd like, you may be seated at this point. We'll stand up again, I promise. We're going to continue with the singing of Lecha Dodi, welcoming the Sabbath bride, the Sabbath queen into our midst. It begins on page 20, and on our final verse, we will invite you to rise.
Shabbat nakabela, lakad adi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nakabela, shambor v'zachor b'dibor echad, yishmiranu elcham yochad, Adonai echad, ושמו אחד, לשמות יפארת ולתחילה, לכד עדי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לכד עדי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכוון לך, כי מקורך ברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה בשבת תחילה, לכד עדי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לכד עדי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, יתעוררי, יתעוררי, כי ברך ומיורי, אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לכד עדי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לכד עדי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, בואי ושלום עטרת בולה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תאכלוני עם סגלות, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לכד עדי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לכד עדי לקראת כלה, בני שבת
You can be seated.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Kasharet, Malachei Aleichem, Bimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachei Yeshulam, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Aleichem, Bimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Aleichem, Bimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Aleichem, Bimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
If you're able, we invite you to rise. on page 26 for Chetzi Kaddish.
יתקדול ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ילמד ורקרותי וימליך מלכותי, ויכון מכון חי כל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יחי שמי רבא מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי כל בית. יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתחתר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקדשו רבקו לעילא מן כל ברכתו ושירתו, תושבחתו ונחמתו, דמירם בעולמו, ויאמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני למבורך. ברכו את אדוני למבורך. ברוך אדוני למבורך, לעולם ועד. ברוך אדוני למבורך, לעולם ועד. יא אלוהי, יא אלוהי, יא אלוהי, יא אלוהי, יא אלוהי,
Together on page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishaneh itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et ha'kochavim, b'mishnerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Together on page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shekavot Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. V'yachafta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושילנתם לבדיך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. That there is a better place, a promised land. That that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
נורא תקילות, עושה פלא, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תקילות, עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו אבניך, בקי הים לפני משה מרים, זה לי, אנו ויאמרו, מלכותך ראו אבניך, בקי הים לפני משה מרים, זה לי, אנו ויאמרו. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תקילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא, עושה פלא. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גואל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, ובדנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, ובדנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ועובדנו שומרנו על החיים, השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, ועובדנו שומרנו על החיים.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשו אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. האלך הגדול כגיבור וכנורא, אלך לכון, גם אלך חסדים טובים, וקונך הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גלו לבני בניכם, למען שמו בחווה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ויסורת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחייך כולתה רב להושיע. בריא תפתל, מחלקי חיים בחסד, בחייך כל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גיבורות ובידוע מלוך, מלך ממית ומחיי ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמנות לך חיות ככל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחייך אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יחללו חסר לו. ברוך אתה אדוני, האלך הקדוש.
We continue silently through page 63 or with the prayers in your heart. And when your private prayer is complete, we invite you to be seated and we'll join back together in a few moments in song. On page 253, we join together as a congregation in a prayer for healing for those in our world who are in need of healing and wholeness of body, spirit, mind, soul. We think in the Beth Am family at this time of Barry Abrams, Syed Afzal, Jerry Bates, Cynthia Baylor, Nanette Bieber, Chase Berlin, Carol Blake, Annette Braverman, Jeff Chernow, Sandy Chernow, Stephen M. Cohen, Andy Dorfman, Marcy Fish, Evan Freibowitz, Lanny Freibowitz, Bobby Glaberson, Phyllis Gorelnik, Stuart Geddes, Robert Green, Stuart Greenberg, Kimberly Hyman, Bernice Jacobs, Rita Jaffe, Hope Katz, Jay Ledger, Spencer Leibowitz, Roseanne Liberty, Stephen Litvak, Daniel McMurray, James Mamery, Amanda McCall, Harav Miriam Bat Yaakova, Lori Malowitz, Vagiha Partieli, Harvey Ostroff, Harav Rachel Bat Shmuel Ufruma, Rebitzer David Rachmiel Ben Sarav Alevi, Selma Romoff, Ann Zalewski, Samuel Schloss, Patrick Schluth, David Stein, Beverly Tisdale, and Judy Weiss. I invite any of you who've gathered here tonight to add names to this list, names of anyone for whom you're praying for healing. And if you're at home watching on the live stream, please say the name of anyone you're praying for aloud. Yes, Bob. With hope for healing in our hearts, we join together in the singing of Mishaberach. May God send us all swiftly a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen. Amen. You know, this Shabbat, we read Parshat Hazinu. And it was my bat mitzvah portion. And I always tell students that they have their Torah portion for a reason. And of course, the first reason they have it is because of the date that their family chooses for them to become bar and bat mitzvah, but that there's a deeper reason, a more spiritual reason. And you know, when at the time, I really liked the idea that this parsha was a poem, that it follows the parallelism that is often a poetic structure in biblical text. And I liked poetry. I still like poetry, and I wrote poetry at the time, and sometimes write it now. So I felt like there was a connection there. But There's also another connection that feels more prescient to me today than perhaps I would have noticed when I was 13. There's a Hasidic story that this parsha makes me think of. It tells of Dov Ber of Mezrich and how he once found his young son alone and crying. His heart went out to the boy, and he asked the little one what was troubling him. The boy replied, "I had been playing hide and seek with the other children, and after a while they stopped looking for me and left. They went away." Sometimes, Dov Ber relates in his telling of the tale, it feels as if God is the one who is hiding. Sometimes when we look at our lives, it seems that we have given up searching for God. Have we begun living our lives as though God is not there? As though God is not worth searching for any longer? Have we given up on the game of relating to God to play at some other amusement? Hazinu talks about a God who hides from God's people. Moses has recounted to the Israelites throughout the book of Deuteronomy all of their history that we read in the Torah, and he recounts how Israel broke God's covenant and how suffering and punishment were the result. Part of this punishment was the feeling that God had abandoned the people, that God was in hiding. And the reason that this resonates for me is because, like perhaps many of you, like many others who live in our postmodern world, especially under such challenges and with such difficulties for our planet and our community, sometimes it feels exhausting to look for God. It feels like God is hiding. Is God in quarantine? But then I drive up to the synagogue, and all of a sudden, as if out of nowhere, the sukkah has been constructed. Yom Kippur takes us with Jonah into the depths. But Sukkot calls us out. It says, there will be death as the leaves fall and the winter comes. There will be loss. But there will also be joy. It's Zman Simchatenu. Sukkot is called the season of our rejoicing. There is a harvest to all of our labor, and there is time enough to sit under the stars and to invite someone to join you and to bring spiritual guests into your midst. And maybe they'll bring along a friend. Maybe God can come too. So my friends, it's my prayer as we prepare for Sukkot, it's not yet, prepare for Sukkot, that we remember the joy that awaits us under the branches, no matter the weather, and that we find a moment to gather and breathe and reflect on all the work that has led up to this new year. We have another ahead of us, but hopefully our searching will yield more fruit than it sometimes does. Hopefully we can look across the table in our sukkah and see God's face in one another. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue our service with Aleinu. And Arlene and Larry, would you open the ark for us? We are on page 282. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולו ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי כארצות, ולא עשנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא עשנו חלקנו ככם, וגור עלינו ככל חמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. שכונות השמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בכוכי מרומים ואלוהינו עינות באמת מלכינו אף זולתו ככתוב בתורתו ידעת היום וחשיבות אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד ונאמר וחי אדוני למלך לכל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמעו אחד. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth. Our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost. The martyrs of our people and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, indeed, on the meaning of life and death. Here in the Beth Am community, we think of those whose families are in the Shloshim period, the first 30 days of mourning. We remember Amanda Francis Burrows, Sam Dion, Rabbi Richard Dick Hirsch, Bernice Jacobs, Joyce Kravitz, Jeremy Pinn, Marvin Ratner, Evelyn Silver, Ruth Wilkoff, and Bernard Wyman. And we add names to this list, names of anyone whose yahrzeit occurs this week. Samuel Arbiter, Myrna Bernstein, Samuel Bernstein, Max Bernstein, Naomi Blackman, Abram Bleckman, Robert E. Bondi, Myrna Brill, Shmuel David Brill, Sarah Brill, Elenka Brill, Rachel Brill, Sylvia Chernow, J. Joseph Silo, Linda Cohen, Jacob Kopman, Lillian Deutsch, Morris Fisher, Genia Circus Friedman, Jacob Goldstein, Maurice A. Granatour, Henry Gross, Trudy Holtz, Boris Siofi, Leonard Cable, Raymond Kane, Jenny Cressman, Salma Levin, Herbert Lewin, Laura Luber, Yetta Marion, Sylvia Martin, Louis Miller, Leon Moskowitz, Celia Novick, Elizabeth Nowich, Ernest Oberman, Dina Richmond, Arlene Robbins, Lorraine Rosenberg, William B. Roskam, Claire Friedman Rubin, Betty Russell, Mr. Maury Sawicki, Jean Sabotnik, Stanley Seidman, Barney Sheen, Dina Snyder, Jean Summers, Ann Stein, Lawrence Tannenbaum, Molly Wagman, Emily Wine, Shirley Wolf. I invite anyone who's gathered here tonight who has names to add to this list to please say those names aloud. And if you're watching from home, please say aloud any names that are for folks you are saying Kaddish for. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be a blessing. We rise as one congregation to join in the words of Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach chirutei, Ve'amlich malchutei, V'chayechon uvyomechon, V'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ula'almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, Shmei Kudusha B'richu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom imramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world, and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. You may be seated. It's my pleasure to call forward our immediate past president, Mr. Mark Braverman, to share some announcements and greetings. Mark.
Thank you. Good Yontif. It is amazing to see this sanctuary packed on a Friday night after the high holidays. Thank you all for coming out. It's really, really rewarding. Frank, you'll be in charge of crowd control? Well, here we go. Tomorrow morning, September 18th, Torah study will be led by Steve Chesson, followed by the peer-led morning service on Zoom. Steve Havner will be the Torah reader. Rabbi's Peer Kavod class is going to happen this Sunday, but at a special time at 10 o'clock. Everyone has been hearing about the horror down, which has unfortunately been postponed because of the outbreak and not knowing which way is up with COVID these days. So, but if you do have a chance, look on the website and find that famous Texas rabbi. You've got to see his commercial. And as a first event tying in both with the Harry and Evelyn Silver, see, the name lives on. They may be gone, but the name lives on. Our Harry and Evelyn Silver Scholar in Residence program will feature on Sunday, November 14th at 9 o'clock, Mark Oppenheimer. He is the author of a book, Squirrel Hill, The Tree of Life Synagogue Shooting and the Soul of a Neighborhood. The event starts at 9 a.m. with a continental breakfast, 9:30 to 10:30 with Mark Oppenheimer's presentation, and 10:30 is the book sale. It's a free event, but reservations are required, so please contact Stacy in the office. And I have been asked by our Vice President of Religion, Barry Tinkelman, to include one other. Let's see, here we go. All services in the Moeller Sanctuary will now be available on YouTube and Facebook, in addition to the live stream window on our webpage. The High Holy Day services are all now available from our website. We invite you to go to the Old York Road Temple-Beth Facebook page and click on the Kol Nidre service. We already have 600 views for that service. Can we get it to 1,000 this weekend? I think we can. I wish everyone a good week, an easy week, and continued good Yom Tov.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. So it would be great if everybody could watch every High Holy Day service a couple more times. I think that'd be a really good thing for you to do. Can you imagine? All right, anyway. Keterzark, are we going to close with a beautiful shir, a song?
That's right. So Mark and I, we decided that in honor of upcoming Sukkot, actually we have a Zoom Sukkot service. Did you talk about that?
Oh, no,
Tuesday morning at 10
Tuesday
o'clock.
morning. Please
Yes.
join us.
Please join us. Rabbi Thornberg and myself, we're going to lead a beautiful service for Sukkot. So in order to get in a spirit of thanksgiving and rejoicing, page 328, Mipiel Ein Adir, we say from the mouth of God of all Israel is blessed, and there is none as mighty as God, and there is none as glorified as God. Page 328, Ein Adir.
Mipiel, Mipiel, Yavarach kol Yisrael. Mipiel, Mipiel, Yavarach kol Yisrael. Ein Adir Kadonai, Ein Baruch Ben Avram, Ein Gedola Katorah, Ein Teshanecha Yisrael. Mipiel, Mipiel, Yavarach kol Yisrael. Mipiel, Mipiel, Yavarach kol Yisrael. Ein Chadur Kadonai, Ein Vatik Ben Avram, Ein Zakal Katorah, Ein Chacham Lacham Yisrael. Mipiel, Mipiel, Yavarach kol Yisrael. Mipiel, Mipiel, Yavarach kol Yisrael. Ein Tahur Kadonai, Ein Yakik Ben Avram, Ein Kaderot HaTorah, Ein Lamdanecha Yisrael. Mipiel, Mipiel, Yavarach kol Yisrael. Mipiel, Mipiel, Yavarach kol Yisrael. Ein Apodek Adonai, Ein Tzadik Ben Avram, Ein Kedusha Katorah, Ein Tomcha
we're going to have Kiddush and say Motzi in here, and oops, pardon me. And then there'll be something for you to grab on your way so that, because, you know, we thought it would be raining, so we didn't want to have an eating indoors. But we do want to have oneg, the joy of Shabbat, together.
All right, Kiddush, would you stand? ויקרא ויקבוקר יום כשישי ויחלק השמיים והארץ וכל עצם ויקרא אלוקים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה ויברך אלוקים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבות מכל מלאכתו כי בו שבות מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוקים אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך שמה, אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי וגופן. ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo,
אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצנו ושבת קדשו באהבה ורצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קדשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim.
It's so shiny. I'm going to bless it, and then we can unwrap it. Please join with us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
See, this is what they train us for in middle school. Unwrapping the Torah. Very badly.